Hey there, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video, and this is a paid request from Shawn. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Well, actually, they'll be over there, wherever the info box is now. But it'll be for any review, re-review, a topic, a reaction, a commentary, video game, let's try, a playthrough, whatever the case may be. First off, thank you, Shawn. Appreciate it. Second, as you tell, is for Rocky 5, the commentary for today. And third, if you notice a sound, it's wind from the ceiling fan. I have it on the highest setting because it's Texas. It's hotter than hell. It's one thing to do a 20-minute video, and I could have it off for a bit, but for a longer period, I'd need that on. Otherwise, it's just too damn hot. So I apologize for the background noise of the fan, but either way, I have the film here. I have the subtitles on, so I'll be able to follow along with the movie. And let's get right into it. Thank you, Shawn. 3, 2, 1, pressing play. Have the MGM logo for syncing. And we're going to fade out now. And then we have UA, United Artists. Remember, they were a thing. Because United Artists were their own company, and then films like the Michael Cimino film Heaven's Gate really demolished that studio. So then you saw them a bit more with MGM. And of course, we see the highlights of Rocky 4. And pretty much what will happen is we're going to see the damage Rocky takes during the fight, which would make sense to the fact that we saw how powerful Ivan Drago was and how much PSI he was doing. And unlike Rocky 4, this does go back to more of the score of Bill Conti, who did the score for the first 3 Rocky films. Now, Rocky 5 is one of those interesting things. I apologize for the clearing of the throat. That's why I need to drink a bit more water. When I watched the Rocky films growing up, a lot of times I would watch Rocky 2, 3, and 4 over and over and over again. This is back to the days of VHS tape. And if you had 2 VCRs, you rent from the store, put a blank one in, the other tape, official tape in the other, and because there's usually 6 hours you could get on a tape, you would put about 3 movies. So Rocky 2 and 3 and 4, those are the ones I watched the most growing up. Rocky 4 being my favorite, then Rocky 3. Rocky 2 I think is a great one. I do like the first Rocky, I saw that years later. This one I did see as a kid, but I like it more now than I did back to the day, but I remember really not liking this back to the day. And I would honestly say there was I think a work print version of this film that I saw, and I think it was actually better than this version, because I thought Stallone's acting felt a bit better. The scenes made the characters flourish a bit better. The music I liked a bit more. There was less of the rap, trying to have the rap version of the music that you hear later on. And there were certain scenes, and I can't remember the specifics. I say in my review of Rocky 5, which is on the channel, because I talk more about it in that, and it's fresh in my mind. There were scenes in that I thought should have been in this, that I thought gave the characters a bit more genuine emotion. So I would say I like that version more than this version. So I don't hate Rocky 5. I like Rocky Balboa better. I like this more than the Creed and Creed 2. Creed 3, I don't know. I don't mind Creed 3, which I was surprised that I said that, but Creed 3 I actually don't mind. But as you see that freeze frame He's the champion of the world, pretty much. He saved Russia. Well, saved. I mean, he ended the Cold War, is what I meant to say. He ended the Cold War. And then we have Tony Burton. I think this might be the only time we see Tony Burton. Now, of course, he would come back for Rocky Balboa. Stop making some herding bombs. Now, Tony Burton, he was also in John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13. I think he had a bit role in The Shining. Like a tiny bit role. But it seems like this that I can understand on an acting front, on an emotional front, that maybe... Number one, I know Stallone has said in an interview he did this for greed because some of his films were not doing well. I love Over the Top. That came out in 1987. It flopped. I love Rambo 3. That came out in 1988. And it was... If you take the box office overseas, you wouldn't call it a flop, but it was determined a disappointment. It wasn't looked at nearly as fondly as the first two. Although I love Rambo 3. It's one of my favorite sequels. But it was looked at as not as good as the others. And again, the box office in the U.S. was not nearly as high as Rambo 2, so people looked at it as a disappointment. But yeah, I think if you take overseas, it made a bit. Lockup, which I love. That film bombed. Tango and Cash made a bit of money, but there was some stuff going on about how the director may have got fired, but didn't get fired, but maybe did get fired, and there was like all this reshooting or additional photography, and there was all this bad buzz, and then it came out and wasn't looked at as fondly. I think he still made a bit of money, and I love the film, so I think you could call it a hit, but it wasn't like $100 million Rambo 2 Rocky 4 size hit. But I think you could look at it as at least somewhat successful. Before I go on, let me stop and we have Sage Stallone here, which, number one, rest in peace to him. Sally passed away, I think it was around 2012. Forgive me if the year is wrong. And it's sad because he was only like in his 30s. And it was like arthrosclerosis, something about that he passed away. I also thought it was weird that his son was a lot younger in Rocky 4. He was only there for a couple months, and his son aged like a couple years. It was funny. There was a Q&A, I think when Rocky Balboa was coming out. He did one when Rocky Balboa was coming out. He did one when Rambo 4 was coming out. With Ain't It Cool News. Remember that was the site people actually remembered and cared about, Ain't It Cool News? After Harry Knowles apparently was doing some very questionable things with women and got canceled for being a creep. That website, I mean, it's still around, but you never ever hear anyone reference like they did back in the day. I know I'm going all over the place, but he did Q&As for those films via text, via writing and answering questions, and someone brought that up. He's like, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, the kid aged like 3-4 years in the span of only being in Russia a couple months. Now, of course, this is an ode to Mike Tyson with the way he's talking, and Richard Gant playing this character. The character's name being what was it? George Washington Duke is, of course, a take on how the hell Rodney. Why can I not remember his damn name? Only in America. Oh my god, I cannot believe I cannot remember his damn name. I feel like an idiot. daunting. That's what I thought. And I second guessed myself. I was just going to say daunting. Oh my god. See, maybe I got brain damage. Can't believe it. See, I'm so bad with names. Should have known that. But anyway, it's definitely a take on daunting, just without the hair. And Richard Gant, I do like him. I like the line he says, "Touch me and I'll sue. Sue me for what?" Now, Richard Gant, real quick, like before I go on, I do like him as an actor. He's been in a lot of stuff. I especially liked him in... He was in Jason Goes to Hell. He was the coroner at the beginning of that film. He would pop up from time to time. But yeah, to go back into that... And yeah, I say this is all definitely an ode to Mike Tyson, who was very popular at the time as just a boxer. Of course, he's done quite a few other stuff afterwards. But yeah, Sage Stallone sadly passed away way too soon. Again, he was like 36 or so. And the only other time he would work with his dad, Sylvester Stallone, was Daylight. He was one of the prisoners in the prison bus in Daylight. Few years after this. And I don't think Sage did a bad job. I think he actually did a pretty capable job. But again, that's why they just didn't bother about the age thing. It's that, oh, well, let me have a role for my son. Which works well because they're actually father and son, so you have that, of course, chemistry with each other. Listen, I don't think Sage did a bad job. May he rest in peace. But yeah, it's one of those things where I don't think this film... You didn't need a Rocky 5. It took me 12 minutes to get to that. You really did not need a Rocky 5. And from what Stallone has said, he did it for greed. Because like I said, his films were not doing well. Over the Top did not do well. Lockup didn't do well. Tango and Cash and Rambo 3. Rambo 3 was considered disappointment in the U.S. Maybe some money overseas, but again, it was labeled a disappointment. What was it? Tango and Cash may have been his only, people say, hit at the time. But again, wasn't this $100 million moneymaker. This was 1990, so he's like, wow, I'm having these flops, and things are not going well. His relationship with Brigitte Nielsen, around 88, and so that took a walk off the pier, so to speak. So he viewed it, because he wrote the script, as, what if you had it all? What if you got it all taken away from you? Just as he felt like it was all getting taken away from him. People didn't want to see that with Rocky. That's the thing. And that's why, for the longest time, I hated the film. Now I don't hate the film, I'm just... Again, I think the work print is better. But I'm trying to just, it's there, it's okay. But if I have a Rocky marathon, this is not really one I rewatch much. Rocky Balboa, I think, trying to be very much more emotional like the first one, because he felt maybe Rocky 3 and 4, especially 4, was more commercial, more about the style, the villains, and how bigger than life they were for different reasons by Mr. T and Dolph Lundgren. The montages, Rocky 4, many parts of that look like a music video, which I think is a good thing, but a lot of complaints were made of that. But at the same time, I'm not alone. That film was entertaining enough to other people that it became such a huge hit in 1985. But that's what I mean, like, people didn't... like Rocky Four, he ended the Cold War. He's a champion, and he ended it on top. You honestly could have ended the whole franchise in Rocky Four, and I don't think a lot of people would complain about it. I honestly don't think that would be the case. I like Rocky Balboa and Melissa, but I don't think if I said you could end it on Rocky Four, there'd be more people. You'd be surprised there'd be more people go, "Oh yeah, actually, you know what? I could see that. I wouldn't mind." That's just my opinion, though. Because again, you didn't want to see Rocky. We've loved this character. We follow this character. We've rooted for this character. He was the underdog. He was the million to one shot, and we rooted for him and we cheered for him and we were there in the theaters. Yeah, or me on TV, or on watching on TV at home. Yeah, Rocky, Rocky. To go through the troubles and tribulations of going against Apollo Creed, and he got the fame and the wealth and the woman, and now he's got a kid, and then it's like, oh, number one, he's got some sort of brain damage. And you see at the beginning he's acting one way, like even more like, hey, how's like doing the Rocky accent, Philadelphia, but even more so, hey, how's it going? I guess doing that because he's supposed to have a type of brain damage. Was then they kind of forget about, or not forget, but they kind of put in the backside for Rocky Balboa. Was not quite that brain damage. That's not what he said, Rocky 5. But it's not that bad, so he can fight Rocky Balboa. But it's like, you're a fan, and Rocky 2, 3, and 4, you've had a whole decade where those were the Rocky films in people's mind, in people's mindset, in people's vernacular. When they went to see it in theater and cable, VHS. So they come back, they don't see Rocky again. It's like, well, he's got a bit of brain damage. Now he can't box anymore. Now Paulie, because of this being tricked for this power of attorney, he lost all his money. He loses his money. He loses his home because Burt Young's character Paulie is an idiot, a fool, a dumbass. Now, granted, I'm sure Talia Shire and Burt Young appreciated this because they have a bit more to do in this movie. And Rocky, especially 3 and 4, Talia Shire didn't really have a whole lot to do. She's great in them, but Rocky 3, she's pretty much kind of that scene on the beach. Nothing wrong with being afraid. Rocky 4, you can't win. Watching Rocky train. Compared to Rocky 1 and 2, Talia Shire and Burt Young, Burt has a few funny moments. Enjoyable in 3 and 4. Robot sings happy birthday to him, which I know is weird and goofy, but I enjoy it. But there's more for them to act and showcase in this compared to 3 and 4. So I'm sure they were happy about it. But again, as a fan, you gotta think it's 1990. I'm 7 years old. Even by that point, I'm 6. And maybe by the time I actually watched this film, I probably didn't watch it in 1990. I probably watched it on VHS a few years afterward, when I'm comprehending movies. I watch Rocky 2, 3, 2, 3, and 4, 2, 3, and 4, 2, 3, and 4. I see this, I go, wait, he's hurt? And he can't box anymore? Which was his dream ever since the original movie. And he loses all his money. And he loses all of his fortune. It's just depressing. That's what I'm getting at. after the runaround for like the last 5 minutes. It's just depressing. I don't know if the audience wanted to go back to see a depressing Rocky film. And then, when Stallone wrote the script, he was going to kill off Rocky. He was going to kill off Rocky at the end. Rocky was going to... this is like a film that, if they stuck with that ending, would have been films you see today. Where's the depressing movie where, guess what? Life sucks and then you die, or hey, it's not always a happy ending. It doesn't always end the way you want it. Which seems to be more common today. And if you think that works, I don't think it works as often as people make it out to be. I think there's a very, very, very tightrope you have to maneuver. And it's very hard to do, at least in my opinion. But I would say one thing. If they did kill off Rocky at the end of this film, I would have hated this. I would probably have hated this almost as much as Alien 3. Because how much I love the Rocky character. That's what it would have been. If Rocky died at the end of this movie, it would almost be like an Alien... Well, if it was Alien 3, everybody would have died, to be fair. But I get how some people could say they appreciate that I try to go back more into the drama and back more into trying to be more about the characters and less about the boxing and the training, like some would say, especially 3 and 4 did. But again, I think Rocky Balboa handled that a lot better. Granted, it's still sad that Adrian dies. But definitely I felt more of the genuine heart and pathos. And as much as it's sad, the ending still thought a really nice, we did it. One more shot of glory before going off to the sunset. As it should have. Because even though I don't mind Creed 3, you don't need any of the Creed films. The Creed films, to me, they don't need to exist. Just my opinion. And that's the thing as a fan. Like, I can only speak for myself, to be fair. I didn't want Rocky to lose everything. I didn't want him to go back to square one. I didn't want him to, he lost all his money and everything he gained didn't matter. I guess, though, on the flip side, you say, well, the one thing he did get was he has a wife who loves him. He has a kid who, by the end, loves him. And that's what matters. He's got the wife, he's got the kid, his family, and that's what matters. But yeah, it's just we followed the glory, and people could say, well, it's more realistic. It happens to a lot of people. But there's a lot of people it doesn't happen to either. Hell, it didn't happen to Stallone. I mean, Stallone still got the money, still got the fame. Yeah, I mean, Tulsa King, he came back with that show. Good season 1, the parts I saw. He's coming back for season 2. He's still working. So even that, at least, is successful. He didn't go back to square one. Oh, and I was getting to the fact of, like, killing off Rocky at the end. I'm sitting there going, why would you want to do that? What kind of message is that for the audience that, hey, this character you followed, that's the 1,000,000 to 1 shot, and he made it. Well, I'm going to take everything away from you. That's what made me think of Alien 3. Let's take everything away from you. That just felt ridiculous to me as a notion. Now, before I get back to that, we have, of course, Burgess Meredith here. Last time we played Mickey, which always was a bit weird because it's supposed to be a flashback to, of course, before... Actually, I don't even know if this is supposed to take place before Rocky 1 or before Rocky 2 or whatever. But you see just how much older Mickey Rourke is. So it's like, okay, Mickey Rourke, God, Burgess Meredith. Because I keep thinking his character Mickey, so Mickey Rourke. Yeah, I mean, holy shit, what happened to Mickey Rourke? He got so old. He must be really in character for his preparation for The Wrestler. He decided to be in this movie, and it's like, well, and wrestling botch is not the same thing, but Terry Funk, which actually the wrestler Terry Funk did do behind the scenes work on this, and he was a wrestler. Rest in peace, Terry Funk. But yeah, Mickey Rourke. Burgess Meredith as Mickey. Burgess Meredith just looks much older here than he did in Rocky 3, where his character died. But, you know, they want to bring Burgess Meredith back. And including at the end, get up, you son of a bitch, because Mickey loves you. It's great to see Burgess Meredith back. He was around for a bit longer because he was in Grumpy Old Men, among other films. Grumpy Old Men was, what, 93 or so? So it was nice to see him one more time. But again, just one of those that it's nice to see him, but you're sitting there going, well, damn, he looks a lot older. I mean, when was Rocky 3? 82? Yeah, 82. So, 8 years. But yeah, at the same time as I see Burgess Meredith. And like one moment between him and Rocky. And of course, I should mention they brought John Avildsen back, who directed the first Rocky. They brought him back to direct the film. And between John Avildsen directed The Karate Kid 1, 2, and Sally 3. He directed other films as well. Let me get his filmography. John Avildsen. He did The Formula in 1980. That was with George C. Scott and Marlon Brando, and that was a flop. He did Neighbors. I forgot he did Neighbors with Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, and that film flopped. A Night in Heaven, I think that film flopped. And then he had The Karate Kid 2. Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman. After this, he would do The Power of One with Stephen Dorff. 8 Seconds with Luke Perry about bull riding. And the last film he did was Inferno, also known as Desert Heat in the US, Jean-Claude Van Damme film. Which I know people like that film. I was not a fan. I thought that film sucked. Although John G. Avildsen, I remember reading somewhere that the film that was out wasn't the film he wanted, and Van Damme or others came in to either re-edit the film or other stuff, and he was very mad about it. I don't know, it's stuff I read a long time ago about it. That John G. Avildsen was not happy about the final cut of Desert Heat. Could be wrong on that, but I think that was what was said. Now, Richard Dean, I do think he does a good job here, just playing this slimy promoter, just gung-ho about it. Especially coming up here where he's like women, as he sips the wine glass. Right here. Richard Dan's definitely one of the high points of it. Like I see, I can understand people's appeal, to repeat myself, of this, where it wasn't trying to be a carbon copy of the previous Rocky films. You know, people said they wanted Rocky to be something a bit more. They tried to do that. But again, for me, like I said, I don't think you need any Rocky films after the fourth one. He's the teen of the world, so to speak. But like everything, it's like they gotta keep going and going and going to try to get that extra dollar. Because of Stallone's greed, he even admitted that. Just like Rambo 5. Rambo 4 was the perfect ending. So let's do Rambo 5 and ruin it. I know people like Rambo 5. I think Rambo 5 is a generic, lame-ass, felt like a direct-to-video movie. Rambo in name only. It didn't feel like a Rambo film. Felt like any other film. Had a couple decent gore with some obvious CG in the third act. That's all I could say of credit. And to be the movie, a Rambo film needs more than that for me. That's another topic, another day. So yeah, the movie just comes off as depressing, and then again the fact that he wanted to kill off Rocky, it was just such a stupid notion. Apparently that's, John G. Avildsen, when he was hired, that was the plan, and apparently like 2 weeks in, it was changed. Now, I read up different stories. I read up on one end, Stallone changed his mind. On the other, I read up that the studio changed their mind and said, no, please don't do this. Granted, Stallone has done this before, so I could believe that Stallone wanted to change. Because First Blood, Rambo was supposed to die. Stallone didn't want Rambo to die. What was it? Rambo 5. He was the terror was supposed to die, but then they changed it a bit. I think they actually CG'd like him breathing. But then they would have had a shot of digital because he gets on a horse and rides away. So maybe they had shot that scene, they turned to reshoot it, so they CGI it, and then they have him. Okay, shoot another scene where he rides off on a horse. I'm guessing Expendables 4, they wanted his character to die. That's why I had that convoluted mess of, well, actually, we had this one guy, and he was dressed up just like Stallone's character, and they put him in the cockpit, and there's his corpse, because somehow Stallone escaped, and I'm like, what the hell happened here? But that whole film sucks. So Stallone has a tendency of doing that, is what I'm saying. Stallone has done that a lot. But I mean, it could have been a case where the studio said, nah, can we not do this? So now we have Tommy Morrison here, Tommy the Machine Gun, who was an actual boxer. I think he had a good record. I think he had like 48 wins and maybe 3 losses. I think one of the wins he got was over George Foreman. But yeah, Tommy Morrison is Tommy the Machine Gun. I like Tommy Morrison. And granted, he got overshadowed because think of the villains or antagonists before. Carl Weathers and his charm. May he rest in peace. Mike Tyson. Why do I keep saying Mike Tyson? Because I see Richard Dant supposed to be Don Teen, and he's making me think of Mike Tyson. Which, I mean, imagine if Mike Tyson was the villain. Dude, that'd be pretty cool. But anyway, Mr. T had that personality, that beautiful, that fervor and energy. And then Dolph Lundgren just had this intimidating, larger-than-life presence. Looked like a robot that was built by the Russian Superman, or by the Russians to be a Superman, created in a lab. So you have those. It's hard to overcome that. So when you follow in the steps of Dolph and Carl and Mr. T, Tommy the Machine Gun, Tommy Morrison just seems kind of meh compared to them. Like a step down. But I like Tommy Morrison. And sadly, he passed away way too soon because of AIDS. Apparently when he passed away, he had sepsis, and which is pretty much your body becoming like a poison fuel tank. I don't know how you want to put it, just leaking poison. Richard Dance just being such an ass, even to Adrian. As Richard Dance, he's having fun with the role. I would say like Richard Dant is what brought the personality to the antagonist compared to Tommy. But I like the idea of, okay, a guy who Rocky trains, but then while training, the guy gets too big for his britches and listens to the wrong people. And that's why I think if you had the film where Rocky retires because he retires, he has nothing more to prove. We all retire. By the way, didn't Rocky 4, they kicked him out of the boxing league or something? Wasn't like on the newspaper? I'm trying to think of Rocky 4. Like, you're not supposed to go to Russia and do this. If you don't, then we revoke. Was it his license? I forget what the newspaper said, but it was like a punishment. Okay, he took the punishment because he wanted to do this for Apollo Creed. He took it on the chin, he does it. He retires because of that, but he won. He has nothing else to prove. He was a champion. Multiple time. King of the world. Like I said, ended the Cold War. Just retire. But then it's like, okay, I'm getting older, but I'll train. And then if you wanted the father-son angle, you could do that. He doesn't have to lose everything. Just have the story about being a father. And he's being a trainer. And he's teaching Tommy how to train. It could be in the boxing and the great places you train in boxing, the gyms, and then have it be, oh, Tommy the Machine Gun, he's doing well, he's doing this, this, and this, but they keep calling him, like in the movie, you're Rocky Jr., all that stuff. So now the match is going to be, and which what they try to do, but they don't go through it with it, so it's a street fight at the end. Now, granted, part of me likes the street fight. Like I said, it doesn't repeat itself too much. But at the time, you're thinking this is going to be the last Rocky film. It's like, okay, well, So the last Rocky film, which is so associated with boxing, is going to end in a street fight. Just felt a bit off, a bit weird. It wasn't bad. It was a fun fight, but then you're like, I don't know, man. Just something about it. You're so used to the formula. Because Rocky 2 and 3 were formulaic pictures, but they were fun pictures. So when it's going to be the last one is breaking the mold, it's like it just felt a bit off. These little turds in the wind, stealing his coat. Of course, the notion here is that why won't you train me and help me out, but you're training this guy, so you're looking at this guy more as a son than me. But the problem is, Rocky is such a sincere, nice guy. You could clearly tell there's no malice behind it. And if the kid is really that damn smart, he could clearly see that Rocky is just... He's not as smart. He's punchy. He got a bit of brain damage. You think he would give a little bit of leniency. That, hey, your dad's got fucking brain damage, so he's not going to maybe see things as clearly as you want. And then again, there's no sense of malice. There's no sense of... You know what I mean? Like, you almost hate... Not hate, but you almost get mad at the kid because so many of us would like to have a dad like Rocky, who at least is that kind, that generous, that loving, that wanting to pay attention to you in terms of those moments when he does. So it's hard to really root for the kid's plight and the kid's turmoil that he's going through, because you're like, Rocky's such a sweet, lovable guy. I see a little bit of the Tommy just losing it. But you see, he's a good boxer and he knows a bit of his thing. He knows a bit of how to do it. And I say I like Tommy Morrison. I never had a problem with him. Again, the others before him I like more, but it's hard to beat those guys. It really is hard to beat those guys. I would easily say I think Tommy Morrison has more personality than... As much as... Rocky Balboa, I think, is a better movie. The antagonist in that is like whatever. I would put this guy, Tommy, above him. But also because there's a little bit more interesting story between Rocky and Tommy. There's a little... But even then, like, I still see issues with the script where, other than stuff in the ring, there's not a whole lot of genuine bonding moments you get between Rocky and Tommy, where any like deep conversations they have about Tommy's background, Tommy's life, Tommy's family, Tommy's this and that. So the bond just feels more superficial when it's supposed to be more meaningful, but you never really feel that. So you get what the story's going for, with the son being mad at his dad, that his dad's paying more attention to Tommy than him. But at the same time, I'm getting mad at the kid because I'm like, Come on, it's Rocky. He's genuine, he's nice, he's kind, he's generous. He doesn't have a mean bone in his body. Except maybe when he tried to break some thumbs. How about break your thumbs? But even then, he was like a kind version of that guy. And I don't know, it just... when that happens, you deal with it going for the kid, but you're almost mad at the kid for being so mad at his dad. Maybe because like we love Rocky so much, or we root for Rocky so much, or we loved him so much. Like, don't talk shit about Rocky, kid. I'm gonna punch you in the face. I'll take your thumbs, kid. Shut up. I mean, it'd be hard to do it this way. That maybe if the brain damage like made him snap at his kid and he didn't intend to. But then it's like, do you want to really see Rocky in that way? Not really. Like I said, you wish that between Rocky and Tommy was a bit more like deeper conversations where they really get to know each other as characters and a bond. But really all he did is like them training a bit together in the gym, and that's it. It just felt like this script could use quite a bit of work. And like I said at the beginning, this script didn't need to exist in the first place. Maybe that's the problem for me is... I don't... there are elements of the idea I like. And again, I think the work print has a little bit more room to breathe. That's why I like that more than this cut. But at the same time, like the overall feeling is... this is not really a story I needed to see from Rocky. I think just that depressing aura of losing everything, and again the idea where they're going with the father-son thing. But again, it's like, again, I don't want to get mad at a kid, but then get mad at a kid for being mad at his dad, and it's supposed to be a genuine reason why he's mad at his dad. But we love Rocky so much, and we know he doesn't mean anything about it, that you almost want to stick up for Rocky against the shenanigans of his kid. I don't know, it's this weird thing. I don't know how best to describe it. Like even the way here, like Rocky, the way he talks to him. He's trying to talk to his kid, he means well, all this other stuff. Most kids would fall on their hands, their knees, all fall down and beg for a dad like Rocky. So then you look at this kid, you go, you little twerp. I wish I was as unlucky as you were. You little... not, I'm talking about the character. You little dork. Now, granted, he makes this thing, this I don't say promise, whatever, and he forgets about it, but to me, it's like he genuinely forgets about nothing, which I think anyone could clearly tell, but... and this is probably the closest you get to a bonding session between them and Tommy. But I don't think there was nearly enough of these scenes to have a genuine emotional connection. And, you know, Tommy Morrison I liked. He's not an actor first and foremost. I think he's doing what he can, though. I'm sure at the time people thought, wow, this guy doesn't have the presence of Ivan Drago and doesn't have the energy of Clubber Lane. And it's like, I'm mad at Burt Young's character Paulie for losing all the money because he's an idiot. I'm mad at the kid for being mad at his dad. You're sad that Rocky has lost everything. Rocky's like doing the best he can, and it's like, kid just acting like a whiny brat, it seems. Which I don't know, maybe I'm being too harsh on him, but yeah, maybe I'm being a bit too harsh. And let's be honest, if you had such a popular star like Rocky, I know he didn't do the best at commercials, but he got better. His Rocky 3, he did all those commercials. So he could do that and make a bit of money again. Because, yeah, he wasn't good at making commercials for Beast Aftershave and Rocky 2, but you see Rocky 3, you see all the commercials he's doing. He's on the Muppet Show, and which was Stallone on the Muppet Show. And he's got all the watches and other commercials and photos. Let's think about it. He could do commercials because we saw in Rocky 3 he could do commercials. He just became the king of the world fighting the big Russian. You're telling me there's nobody in the country that wants to capitalize on that for Rocky? This guy just had the craziest boxing match against the big Russian, and not one single company in the whole damn world wants this guy for anything? Bullshit. They would get him in like a dozen commercials at least that would have gotten them out of this slump. And there probably would have been some, I don't know, maybe give him a grill like George Foreman. And look at like a lot of these other guys after boxing, how successful they got. You know, Mike Tyson even, and George Foreman, all these others still made a lot of money even after boxing. So yeah, it felt like there's a lot more that could be done to still be successful and not, And even in Rocky Balboa, they kind of do that, where he has a successful restaurant, where he goes in and talks to people and has these nice suits and seems to be doing fairly well on that front. Granted, not rich, but make a living and stuff. Well, the restaurant seems to be pretty nice looking, so. But yeah, the fact that he can't book one commercial after the success of his fight in Russia, and it didn't repeat to say, well, he doesn't know how to do commercials. In Rocky 3, there's that whole montage of him doing commercials and his success after the events of Rocky 2. So unless they forgot about that. And here's, like, remember a lot of stuff in Rocky 1. That whole thing there, that's how Rocky 1 started. And this, and that's the thing, is like, we don't get the same director of Rocky 1. We don't go to a lot of the same locations of Rocky 1. We want to bring it full circle. We talk to the guy who does the da-da-da-da-da. Like in Rocky 1, a little bit in Rocky 2. Which I guess that's what Stallone, he wrote it and gave birth, so by then he wanted it to die. And probably be this pretentious, dramatic, heartfelt, what was that movie with John Voight? The kid, where he's a boxer and he, oh, I guess that's a spoiler. I forget what the movie was called. He wanted to go for that, and maybe, hopefully, maybe get an Oscar nomination. I don't know. But yeah, if Rocky died at the end of this would have been even more hated. It wasn't that well liked to begin with. See, filming began in mid-January 1990. I think Terry Funk, may he rest in peace, who was the wrestler, he helped choreograph the street fight at the end. Because Stallone was a wrestling fan. That's the thing. Sylvester Stallone was a wrestling fan. He made Paradise Alley, which dealt a bit of the old-time wrestling. Terry Funk, he was friends with him for a while, would get him in a lot of movies. Got him in Over the Top. There's a story, Jim Cornette tells a story. I'm a big fan of Jim Cornette. I listen to his podcast a lot. And that, like, he heard from Terry Funk that it was Paradise Alley or one of those movies where the stunt people were giving crap to wrestlers. And Stallone went up to them and said, "What the hell are you guys talking about? You have to do it hopefully just once. They got to do it hundreds of times a year. They do a lot of work. You guys shut up." Again, he was an over the top with, I think he was one of the people working for the Robert Loggia's character. He might have appeared in a few other Stallone films. I'm trying to think, though. And sadly, we lost Terry Funk not too long ago, which is too bad. So now we got this montage of Tommy winning. And of course, all the newspapers saying Rocky's boy, Rocky's robot, all this other stuff. Which, I mean, they definitely wouldn't do this today, because they would be considered too mean, too rude, too meany to make fun of people like that and call someone a robot or a boy, whatever. And of course, the idea is that Rocky, since he can't box, he's able to have that success, to have that feeling of satisfaction through Tommy. He can't do it himself, so he's able to feel it through Tommy. And this is where the sons get more mad, because you're paying more attention to him and less attention to me. But see, if for me, like, Rocky's just more oblivious to that. Which maybe for the kid, it's like, it doesn't matter. But like I said, you don't really get much of an emotional connection between Rocky and Tommy. It's like, okay, they're going up the steps, and they're doing all this other stuff, but like I said, I don't really feel an emotional connection between the characters. It just takes more than, one little dinner scene for that to happen. just pretty soon, we're going to have Tommy go with this guy, Richard Dent, and there you go from there. Let's see, look at some trivia here. Trivia. The Rocky statue from Rocky 3 had been gifted to the city of Philadelphia and moved to the entrance of the Spectrum, so it had to be moved back to Philadelphia Museum of Art for the filming. Scenes with Mickey were trimmed in the final film. Mickey appeared in ghost form on top of the railway bridge, giving words of encouragement. And the final film was made into flashbacks. Yeah, you definitely see more of that in the warp print. Producer Irwin Winkler and Avildsen apparently were not big fans of the ending where Rocky dies, with the former saying that it was never shot, while also stating that Stallone eventually was convinced to change the ending. Which I think is ironic, because now Stallone is pissed off at Irwin Winkler for other reasons. And I'm like, if he helped you stop getting Rocky to die, maybe he does deserve a bit of credit than you would give. In the years following the film's release, Stallone acknowledged that the injury which forces Rocky to retire, referenced in the film as a potentially lethal form of brain damage, was inaccurate. Stallone stated that, having discussed the story with many boxing medical professionals, the injury Rocky suffered was a milder form of brain damage similar to that of a long-term concussion that many boxers suffer from, and by modern-day standards are still able to gain licenses to box. It would not have prevented Rocky from gaining a license to box, nor killed him. Tony Byrne briefly reprised his role as Duke, but Rocky refers to him as Tony. That's right. Because the character's name is Duke. Possibly to avoid confusion with George Washington Duke's character. Rocky Balboa names Burton's character Duke Evers. In Rocky 4, Rocky's son was portrayed as a 9-year-old kid. Sage was 14, despite taking place days after the events of Rocky 4. Yeah, that's what I was saying, beforehand. Anticipated to be one of the big hits of 1990, it finished third in its opening weekend behind Dances with Wolves and Home Alone. Earned $14 million of his opening weekend and $41 million total in the U.S. It made $79 million foreign for $119 million worldwide gross. But yeah, $41 million, and your last film, Rocky IV, did like $100 million, $150 million? Somewhere around there. Oh, at least over $100 million. Definitely a steep decline. Got a 33% Rotten Tomatoes. Rocky V's attempts to recapture the original's working-class grit are as transparently phony as each of the thuddingly obvious plot developments in a misguided installment that sent the franchise flailing into long-term limbo. In 1999, Time placed the film on a list of the 100 worst ideas of the 20th century. Yeah, there was an interview, I forget where, it was a talk show, and someone wanted him to rank the Rocky films, and he gave this a 0 out of 10. I'm curious, what does this get on IMDb? Just curious. 5.4. Yeah. Yeah, I was just looking up some reviews, and I just some people calling the son dorky and unlikable. So there you go. My daddy doesn't love me as much as he should. You know, type of thing. That girl looked like Wilma from the Flintstones. And of course, it's supposed to be the idea that, you know, he's looking to the fun. Wow, there you go, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation on TV there. Back when you had those old school TVs. It's Christmas Vacation. And that's where Rocky's being oblivious. That's supposed to be something for his kid, and he's giving it to Tommy. It's like, Adrian, why don't you just tell Rocky? If you told Rocky this, he would, oh, okay. And then change. That's the thing with Rocky, is that we've established he's not the brightest bulb. He could barely read in Rocky 2 for the commercials. He could be very oblivious on stuff. He's got, in this movie, brain damage. Help him out a bit. Have a conversation or two. If a guy's got brain damage and wasn't the Albert Einstein to begin with, damn, that girl's titties are ready to pop out. But I don't mind. I'm watching them. Is that why this got PG-13? Because I think the other ones were PG, but this was PG-13. Granted, even 85 PG-13. I'm trying to think. I know Red Dawn was one of the first to get PG-13. But by this point, PG-13 was much more of a used rating. And that's another thing with Stallone. As much as I'm a Stallone fan, his performance from time to time just got a bit too hammy for this. A bit too big. I mean, granted, you say that when you got to like Rocky 4, he didn't seem as much as the Rocky in the first and second one. Aside from a little bit of the action here and there, he seemed a bit more like, you know, any other Stallone character. Although I still love him in Rocky 4. But in this case, this felt like a bit bigger, like hammier performance. This doesn't seem like to me. Maybe that's just me though. Just seemed a bit bigger. Just a bit hammier. So weird seeing these damn earrings on the left there. What was the thing? I'm trying to remember. Like, there's this thing back in the day, like, depending which ear you had the earring on. What was the phrase? Like, left is right, but right is wrong. Like, I know it was on PC, but back in the day, they would say, like, if you had an earring in one ear, that maybe means you're gay, and you had it on this ear, then it was just a fashion statement. That was a thing back to the day, and I don't remember what it was, but if that was a thing that people said back to the day, it was an actual thing. I'm not just making it up. As I said, I'm sure the writer, Stallone, the writer, he thought he knew what he was doing in terms of wanting to create more for the Rocky character. That okay, we had all this stuff with his, the love story in the first film, and her health, her danger, the birth, in the second film. Now the turmoil of being a dad. But it does make the son a bit of a jerk, or a bit of a dick at times. Grad teenagers are known to do that, so maybe that's realistic. But again, I think that comes to the notion of, if you're a Rocky fan, is this really what you wanted to see in a new Rocky film? Again, especially after the more crowd pleasers are Rocky 3 and 4. Number one, once you've had those, it's hard to go back to the beginning. It's very hard to do that. And in Rocky Balboa, I think there's more time to process it, and I thought it had more of a dramatic heft to it. And like I said, I don't hate this film, but it does, in my opinion, have a lot of issues. And yeah, this was not a good time for Stallone's career. And that's the thing with Stallone. I know I rag on the guy a lot, but I am a huge fan, and that's why I do it, because I know his capabilities. I know what he's capable of. He deserved his success in Rocky. I think he's done a lot of films I think are incredibly underrated. Lockup, I think, is underrated. Which Donald Sutherland, who is the villain, he recently passed away. May he rest in peace. Lockup, I think, is underrated. Daylight, I think, is underrated. He has his issues. The people Stallone has to rescue are annoying twats. But Stallone's really good in it, and the action scenes and the spectacle I really enjoy. It was nice to see Stallone in that type of film. Poseidon Adventure type of story. I See You, I think, is underrated. I quite like that film. I still have yet to see the other cut that I have over here of Detox, aka ICU. But yeah, there's a lot of films of his I like and love and enjoy. I love Cobra. I love the first four Rambo films. I love a lot of the Rocky films. Cliffhanger, Demolition Man, Tango and Cash. I like Oscar. I like the first Expendables. Rocky Balboa. I mentioned Rambo 4. I like Dick Carter. I think Dick Carter's underrated. But again, you look at his box office. In the 80s, it was either the two Rambo films or the Rocky sequels that were the hits. When he tried to do something else, I love Cobra, but that only made like 50-some million. Might have been a profit because of the budget, but based on the marketing, based on the anticipation, it was labeled quite a bit of a disappointment. Because your previous film made over 100 million, making that it made that, yeah, it made it. Well, this better do the same or close, and it doesn't, not even close. And you're like, then it's looked at as, some would deem it a flop. It probably made a bit of money. I would think it didn't lose money, but it was looked at as a disappointment, and probably one of the main reasons why Cobra never got a franchise. If Cobra made the money that Rambo 2 or Rocky 4 did, then it would have. Lockup flopped. Over the Top flopped. Tango and Cash might have done okay, but it wasn't a blockbuster. And in Rambo 3, I love Rambo 3. Looked at as a disappointment. I mentioned it already. So with all that stuff going on, and then you do another Rocky film, and then this is labeled, I don't know what the budget was for this. What was the budget for Rocky 5? It says 42 million, and it made 41 million in the US. Now, do you say, well, it made over 100 million worldwide? But at the same time, like, I don't know how that works in terms of when it's released foreign. How much does the studio get from the foreign sales, the foreign box office? Do they take more? Does the studio get less? And also, what was the marketing in Rocky 5? You would think that it would be marketed heavy. And then that ups the budget quite a bit. So it is, if it's not looked at as a flop, it was looked at as a big disappointment. And a lot of fans like me were very disappointed as well. So you have a Rambo film that didn't do as well as it should have. You have Rocky 5 that didn't do well. You have films that didn't, like Over the Top and Lock Up that bomb. He tries to do comedy, like Stop and My Mom Will Shoot and Oscar, and those bomb. Again, I like Oscar, but they didn't do well. And then it's like, man, Stallone's career, is it over? But then he did Cliffhanger, great movie, that was a hit. Demolition Man, love that movie. I think it did pretty decent, especially overseas. The Specialist, that might have made some money. I can't remember though. I don't mind The Specialist. I think it would have worked better if A, you didn't have all the Stallone, Sharon Stone sex scenes. It's not really that enticing to me. I also think it would have been interesting if Stallone and James Woods swapped roles. If James Woods was the hero and Stallone was the bad guy, that would have been very interesting. Like, take out the Sharon Stone stuff and have it be James Woods versus Sylvester Stallone and this whole bombing thing. Have that be the plot. That would have been really intriguing. As is, I don't mind The Specialist. Like I said, I don't mind it. I like it for what it is. James Woods is fun. I like Stallone in it. I like the bomb sequences, the special effects. And then the Sharon Stone stuff, not as much. Assassins, I don't mind. And that didn't do too well. I do think it's a bit overlong. That was a bit weird, him trying to, like, kiss his son's ear or something. What is it, Joe Biden? Sniff some hair. But Like, Assassins did not do that well. Judge Dredd definitely did not do that well. What was it? Dick Carter was a flop. That was 2000. Let's see. Between Daylight, which I liked, that did not do well. Now, again, when I say it didn't do well, I'm talking about the U.S. Some of them may have did well overseas and helped maybe the studio either dip back their money, maybe even get a profit. I'm not for certain how overseas works on all that, and how much a studio in the U.S. gets from a foreign box office. So again, let's say it made $100 million overseas. How much does a studio get from that? Do they get 20 million? Do they get half of it? I don't know. But anyway. They weren't doing the best. Especially in the U.S. So Assassins, Judge Dredd, Daylight. Oh, and then Copland. I'm sorry if you heard something. Just it was the water going down the wrong throat. I think because I was thinking of Judge Dredd. So my throat went. I think my throat was trying to do a Tim Allen. Like home for like what brain think of Judge Dredd. Because that was such a disappointing film to me. It has good moments in it. There's good things about Judge Dredd. So it's not the worst film ever. I could watch it. But I'm like, man, I have so many issues with that film. There is some good moments, but yeah. But yeah, oh yeah, Copland, 97. Stallone wants to do something a bit different. The films he's doing like Daylight and Judge Dredd, they're failing. Tried to go back to be a bit of an actor. I think gave easily one of his best performances in Copland. He was fantastic in Copland. But then lo and behold, it didn't do well. Lo and behold, critics took a dump on it. It didn't do much in the box office. People, I just assumed, oh, Stallone's not doing action films anymore. And he even said in interviews he wants to go away from action. So people were not really giving him as much jobs in that compared to before. And then it's like, wow, he does this and even that doesn't do well. So I'm sure his calling card went down a bit more in stock. And Copland, to me, I think it's a great movie. I really do think it's such an underrated film. Great cast: Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel. You got Robert Patrick. You got Peter Berg. You got Michael Rappaport. You have so many people in that film, and I think Stallone gave one of his best performances. I love the finale of that film. I think the finale of that film is fantastic. A modern day Western. And Copland didn't do anything. It still confuses the hell out of me as to why that is. Why critics but I mean, Black Panther and Barbie got nominated for Best Picture Oscars. They didn't win, but they were nominated. Like, you trying to tell me that Barbie and Black Panther are better movies than Copland? Okay. If you say so. Now, of course, the story here, Tommy Morrison won, but he did not think Rocky. He thanked Richard Dant. Of course, the crowd's booing. Even the announcers are booing. They're not talking about, wait, he did. So, I mean, the announcers know, the public knows, they know they just threw Rocky under the bus. And this is the kind of guy Rocky is. He's sad by it, but he's still optimistic guy. He's keeping his promise with his son and all that jazz. And sometimes the dialogue is trying to be so much on the nose. Like you can't give him your heart. You can't give him your heart. It's like, yeah, I kind of understood that. You don't have to say it literally. So the dialogue at times comes off as a bit, clunky. Or at least I thought it worked better in films like Rocky 3 with the whole being afraid. I thought like that worked a bit more smooth in terms of the dialogue compared to this. And Tommy, what the hell is he wearing? He's wearing this ugly ass. He's getting ready for golf or something. And these reporters, I love just how hostile they are. Nowadays, you would never get reporters this hostile. And also, they wouldn't just speak out of turn. They'd be like raising their hands, like, okay, you and you. Like, look, like, reporters would never be this hostile, especially in an environment today. It'd be considered too mean, too NPC. Especially when the one reporter talks about the woman with the tits ready to pop out. That's just how hostile these reporters are. I bet reporters saw this and their minds exploded. Like, no reporter would ever act this way. No reporter would ever talk this way. Would never just, they wouldn't act this way. Especially, I did comments like about the woman coming up. And sometimes you have like reporter try to ask a tougher question, but then it's like they're trying to be very apologetic if the person gets bad, or they just grow silent if the guy gets missed and pissed off and miffed. But I'm sure reporters looked at this and go, "What the hell?" Damn, left the woman behind. You tell Tommy didn't want to hit that door too hard because he didn't want to hurt his foot. So you hit the door, but don't hit it too hard so you don't, break anything. This ugly, like, tracksuit he's wearing. And this other guy here, he needs that spray that's on the back of the head. Not Richard Gere, but the other guy. He needed a bit of that human type chia pit. On the spray you would see in those like commercials at like 2 a.m. But I was saying way before, like Stallone, just his career, like even after Copland, he did a voice in Ants. Get Carter, I liked. That film did not do well. That film bombed. Driven, that did not do well, and I thought that was a pretty sucky ass movie. And it was getting to a point his films were going direct to video. Avenging Angelo went direct to video. That was a terrible movie. I See You, also known as Detox, was supposed to be a theatrical film. I think at one point Universal but it got dropped, and that I remember when it went straight to video and DVD, because I remember seeing an advertisement for it somewhere, and the first DVD, the first time I got that on DVD, I remember it was at Best Buy. I was in San Marcos, Texas at the time, walking distance to a Best Buy, went there, saw the DVD, picked it up, was really excited, and I enjoyed the film. And that's why, after a few bits of that, I gotta get my career on track. And he did Rocky Balboa. And that's the thing, no one wanted, like, Rocky Balboa was tough to get made. Like, Stallone, he was saying in interviews how the studio, they didn't want another Rocky film. They didn't want a Rocky Balboa film. He had to fight every inch to get that movie made. Then that led to Rambo 4, and that led to The Expendables, and then that led to another career resurgence. Now, granted, a lot of stuff he did after wasn't that great, but obviously with overseas and streaming and other pieces of ad revenue, I meant to say, avenue, yeah, all up and down the boardwalk. Revenue, ad revenue, whatever the case you want to be, got enough revenue that you had Estate Plan, and then you had Estate Plan 2 and 3. Expendables 2, 3, and 4. Doing films like Bullet in the Head, or Bullet to the Head, where the hell it was, and that superhero movie that I always forget the damn name of. Because I didn't give a rat's ass. Well, you knocked me down. You knocked him down while you knocked me down. My ring's outside. I will admit, ever since I was a kid, the street fight has grown on me. It has. It's just a bit weird to not see Rocky fight in the ring. Again, I don't think you had as much of an emotional build-up between these two characters to really feel any big emotional attachment of these two as friends. I guess apparently Terry Funk choreographed this, which is cool. I'm not big on the hip-hop version of the Rocky theme. Like, it's okay, but it's not what I prefer. I think in the work print version, I don't think it's in the work print version, the hip-hop version. I don't think it is. Like, part of me thinks it's okay, but there's a part of me it's not my favorite rendition of the Rocky theme, I'll put it that way. And part of me misses Vince DiCola, because I love his music in Rocky 4. Yeah, and could you imagine if Rocky died at the end of this movie? Like, he survived Mr. T, he survived Ivan Drago, but Tommy killed him. Like, come on now. And then you'd be like, for what? For a damn fight in a street? That even if he won, what did he really win? To make his wife a widow? To make his son not have a father? It's like, what did Rocky even win in that fight if he died? Wouldn't have won anything. It's just, hey, congrats, you made your wife a widow. Congrats. Would have been such a stupid, asinine choice. So you see that train, that's when you're supposed to see Mickey on that train talking down to him. Of course, we have footage of Rocky 3, Rocky 4. That's why you have the weird shot of the train, because again, it's supposed to be Mickey on there. And you're a bit of the Bill Conti score, but then it's going to get more of this hip hop version, which I don't mind, but I do like that line. I didn't hear no bell. So there are stuff I liked about it. I didn't hear no bell. And this part of the fight I liked when Rocky's able to kick his ass. And because it's more of a street fight, you do a few things that you can't do in a boxing. Like grab someone's arm and hit him in the back and stuff like that. Trip him up like this. Trip him up again. But again, it's just like, I think as an audience that's so used to the other Rocky films, it's like, okay, we're having a street fight and all this other stuff happened, and just doesn't feel as big, as grand, as spectacular, as noteworthy, as memorable as the previous Rocky films, especially, 2, 3, and 4. Never turn your back on an opponent unless you're damn stippy he's knocked out. Damn suplex. Suplex City, bitch. That was always a weird effect, like this like shaking thing when he's like, he took my room. It's like, it's not a push him, but it's like a shaky thing too. I think like part of like, you really did want to see the actual boxing match between these two and not just a street fight. Of course, Adrian's got to get there to yell Rocky. Yeah, have Adrian to yell Rocky. Well, I mean, she don't in the next one because she's dead. But get some gut punches in there. So again, like, it's grown on me, but if you're asking, like, I don't think this fight's nearly as memorable as the fights in the other Rocky films. Like, the first 4 Rocky films, I think the fights are easily better than this. Just the boxing ring, the scope, the editing. It's going through so many rounds, so it's going to be a lot longer of a fight. And of course, probably the other reason is because you're using bare fists, so there's no protection. Only in America, like Don King. So that's what I mean. Like, you look at the fights in the first 4, even Rocky Balboa. Of the first 6 Rocky films, I thought this was the weakest fight. To me. It was shorter for the reasons I mentioned, and you don't have as much of angles, and there's not other than Rocky hearing Mickey and going back up, there's not a whole lot of other story to tell with the fight. Even this bit here where it's like they're just on a street, and you have this right here where Rocky's not even, he's like ready to be off screen. You just think of like the ending of the first film and the freeze frame. You think of Rocky 4 and Hearts on Fire, and just doesn't seem as epic, doesn't feel as emotional, doesn't feel as satisfying. Like I say, is this the worst movie ever? Far from it. It's like, I know I've been ragging on it more than praising it, even though I said it was okay. I do think it's okay nowadays. I could watch it because it's still nice to see Stallone. It's nice to see Sage, may he rest in peace, and to see the two of them work together as father and son. It's nice to see that, and there's a sense of sadness. We see how happy they are together, and then Sally Sage is, like you said, no longer with us. There are moments I do like. I like the song at the end, Elton John's Measure of a Man. I do think that's a great song. Richard Gant is a lot of fun. Talia Shire had a bit more, it felt like, to do dialogue-wise compared to the last couple. But, and you tell with this montage of pictures, they really did think this was going to be the last Rocky film to go through the whole history. And I said they were hoping it would be the emotional satisfaction that Rocky 1 was. That, hey, we know we went, in their eyes, too far with the style and the music video quality of Rocky 4. We're going back to basics. But just, I think someone put it felt just more lousy soap opera type. And I don't hate the film. I think the word print is better than this version. And I don't know, the word print version just felt like things flowed a bit better. It felt like the acting came off a bit better. And a little bit more room to breathe. I think the music is utilized a bit better in the word print version. I remember Burt Young having a couple decent moments in the word print version. I think it was cut out of this one. But then you had Rocky Balboa, and then you had the 3 Creed films. They will probably be a Creed 4 sometime. I know Stallone is in this battle with Erwin Winkler and the Winkler family. I forget what the details were. Something about how Stallone doesn't own Rocky anymore. I don't remember how that came to be. And he wants to own it. So it's about the ownership of the Rocky franchise, and Stallone wants to own it, and Winkler, they own it, and there you go. It's why he was not in Creed 3, which I didn't mind Creed 3. In fact, part of me wants to say I like Creed 3 more than this one. Because Creed 3, like, I saw it once. I didn't hate it. And this, like, you have a lot of issues with it, but I do. Again, this is a great song. I will say, I love "Measure of a Man." Great song. Like I said, it's, and obviously, like, they have this big here where even though the credits are done, they let the song play out. Again, thinking there's going to, people would sit through the credits and, hey, this is the end of his journey. And then people go, does it have to be the end of his journey? Like, can't the fourth one? Or hell, for some people, the third one, like, be the end of his journey? Does it have to be this one? So, there you go. That's Rocky 5. Yeah, I don't hate the film, although it sounded like I did. I just think it has a lot of problems. So, that's just me. It's not horrible, it's not terrible. But, yeah, there's a lot of things I would have... I would not have made the film to begin with, to be perfectly honest. I don't think it needed to be made. Again, Stallone just wanted the money. And that's the other thing. They want to release a film that hopefully is a box office success. Because when your film is a box office success, then the studio will go, well, that actor's back. And since that was success, and people are talking about you again, let's give you this movie with maybe a paycheck, and you do this film, and this film, and this film. On the flip side, when they look at it and go, well, damn, Rocky films have always been big hits. All four of them. When even a Rocky film's not making the money, and your last Rambo film underperformed, I think that people seem to be ready to throw in the towel. That's why it's great, but it's surprising he got cliffhanger. I'm glad he did, and that helped give him a second chance. But, yeah. It is what it is. With that said, thanks for watching. Take care. And we will see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.